What's up, everybody? It's the Power Rankings Podcast, aka the Power Rankings Show. I'm your host, Elliot Harrison, and I am pleased to be joined by @Marcus_Mosher.
Well, why'd you say it like that?
I don't know. I watched a Jim Carrey graduation speech the other day. It was very inspiring. Love Jim Carrey. I think Jim Carrey is a supreme talent. A great way to start a podcast again.
Much like Mitchell Trubisky, who we're going to talk about in just a second.
Oh my gosh. Please, the sanity. Marcus is the host of Locked On Cowboys. He usually joins me, but we have our unusual guest who was here last week. It's Chad Ryder, who I worked at the NFL with, who covers the draft. We're going to be bringing him on in a few minutes, although I can see him right now. He's wearing a white Adidas jacket that kind of matches my shirt, but it looks like, I was telling him offline, Marcus, it looks like the kind of jacket that if Usain Bolt just showed up at the combine, he would casually run the 40 in about 4.3 in, doesn't it? It makes Chad look fast. Do you think Chad likes him fast?
Do you think Usain Bolt would only run a 4.3 at the combine? It's a little disrespectful.
Isn't that what he ran a couple years ago when he just kind of casually?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he could do that just in his sleep, right? But
yeah. So that guy is something else, and he's got long speed. You know, a lot of these guys that run the 40 don't have long speed. We're gonna have plenty of time to talk about combine.
Can we start with that though? Because listen, we're going to talk a lot about the combine over the next couple episodes. I actually talked to you about this the other day, but you have this disdain for the combine that I'm not sure why. So please educate the audience why you hate the combine so much.
Look, if you like the combine because it's kind of like Olympics for football, that's fine. You know, get excited about your shuttle run. I did the shuttle run in third grade. We used to line up an eraser at one cone and an eraser in another cone. We do it. It was a lot of fun in third grade. We also played crab soccer in third grade. So when it was bad weather outside, I don't see the excitement of watching guys in tights run around. Like I just don't get it. I don't think it translates to pro football personally. And so I do see the value, though, and why they created it. I think they started it in 87 in Indy, is having a hub where you could get all the players together. And it's important to go over medical stuff. If a guy's had a torn labrum or something in college, find out where he's at, find out what he had done, and then also your interview process. Those kind of things I think are important, and better to get the information in one hub than because the pro days are just such staged events now where every possible condition that could be set up in the athlete's favor is. So I get the point of the combine from that angle. I just don't think it has a lot of applicability, Marcus. I'm sorry.
I think it's a really good tool to cross off players, right? Like if you have a receiver who runs a 4.75, you're probably not going to be very successful in the NFL. So this is a good way to filter or sort out players that maybe just aren't NFL athletes. And I think that's the best way to use the numbers for the combine. If you're drafting based off just how players perform on the combine, I agree. That's a bad way to do it. But I think there are some ways that the combine can help you eliminate risk. And that's why I get excited about it. I know it's a nerdy thing. I'm sure Chad will agree, but it's fun for guys like us.
Well, we're going to bring Chad on in a few minutes. I mean, if I wanted to watch process of elimination, which is what you're describing, I'll just watch NFC East football. They all managed to eliminate themselves pretty quickly.
Oh, my gosh. Listen, you and Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan all skipping out on the combine this year. It's something about you guys. I don't know.
Well, I want you to know, by the way, I went to Banana Republic with my friend Lindsay, who's from Pennsylvania, and there was no way to bang that coffee mug down, boy. I mean, that sounded great. Can you do it one more time just for all of our listeners? Sweet.
Sorry.
Sweet. So I went to Banana Republic and no Kyle Shanahan. No one was there. They didn't have the underwear I needed. I had to order it. Very disappointing. Let's talk about a couple news items. I told Marcus there's no news. And Marcus says, yeah, there is. So Dak Prescott had shoulder surgery, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, shoulder surgery. The Bucks, Bruce Arians, I heard this on Sirius Radio today, the NFL channel, good channel, Channel 88. If you never listened to it, Pat Kerwin's got a great show with Jim Miller in the afternoon. Moving the Chains, that's what it's called. Anyway, they had Bruce Arians, and he said that they're going to leave the light on as an organization for Tom Brady to come back. And what am I missing? The Broncos are the staff. You said Marcus is still into Teddy Bridgewater, but they are still looking for a quarterback. I don't know how much to think there.
Also, Bruce Arians says he's not going to let Tom Brady go to another team. It would take 5 first-round picks to trade him, which I did find a little interesting. Like, Brady redid his contract to help the Bucs out, and now they're not letting him leave if he wants to come back. I just thought that was interesting.
Before we bring the sexy Mr. Ryder on, can we talk about the real news of the day?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
And honestly, I want Chad's thought on this when we do bring him in. I know we've got draft stuff to go through, but this is case in point why the draft is overrated sometimes. Sorry, this is case in point. Go ahead. Please just roll this news out. I can't believe this.
So there were a couple different reports from today and last night that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be a sought-after free agent here in the next couple of weeks. And as many as 12 teams could be interested in signing him. And the number, I'm not sure who I got it from. I believe it was Albert Breer, like $18 to $20 million per year is what Trubisky could get. And I kind of can understand why, Elliot. I can.
Please.
Give me your thoughts. I want thoughts.
It's so ridiculous.
Why?
Ridiculous.
Why?
What has Mitch Trubisky? Okay, where was Mitch Trubisky drafted in the first round?
It was the third or second pick.
Second pick, right? So have we even seen anywhere near that level of play based on the draft position? Anywhere near it?
No, but is he, can he be a starting level quarterback in the NFL? Yes, we've seen that before, right?
Have we seen anywhere near, let's take some second round picks of note. Alex Smith was a second round pick. Colin Kaepernick was a second round pick. Have we seen anywhere near second round pick play from Mitch Trubisky?
Yes.
No.
Remember, he made the Pro Bowl. He made the Pro Bowl in 2018.
Great. What was he that? Was he the eighth replacement quarterback?
Remember, the Bears went 11-3 that year with him as a starter. They were really good.
Yeah. If I went to you with something from 2018, you would call me out on that so fast.
No, what I'm saying is fast. he was 24 years old. Again, I'm arguing on behalf of Mitchell Trubisky. What am I doing? But let me just point this out. 2018 and 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't bad. The Bears did go 19-10 with him as a starter. He does offer you a lot of athletic ability. It's just, can he be the 19th best quarterback in the league? Why not?
Yeah,
why not?
So I've got the Bears up from 2018. It always fascinates me that people love to pile on like Matt Nagy, for example. Are you going to tell me that was Mitchell Trubisky that got them there? Because Matt Nagy is one of the most hated on recent coaches I've ever heard of. And the Matt Nagy Bears in 2018 went 12-4.
Sure.
That's a fact, what I just said. Now, here's the thing. So they're 9th in points for, 21st in yards. Okay. And you say, how could they have so many more? How could they rank so much higher in points than they did in yards? Probably because they had the number 1 scoring defense in the National Football League. Literally number 1. Mitch Trubisky and Chase Daniels' numbers were almost identical for the amount of time that they played. Chase Daniels started a couple games that year, by the way. I'm just saying.
No, I just want to point this out. Ryan Tannehill in 2017 did not play a game, right? 2018, he went to Miami, and he was not very good, right? 2019, goes to Tennessee as the backup for a little bit, at age 31, and ends up becoming the starter. It gets a huge pay raise, right? I'm just looking at Trubisky's numbers from the last 3 years. He's got a passer rating of 90. Is that great? No, it's not. But he is a really good runner. Ryan Tannehill this year had a passer rating of 89. Like, I'm not saying that Trubisky is better than Tannehill, but could he do something like that now that he's had a year off and maybe in a different situation, be a B minus C plus quarterback.
Yeah, but the idea that somebody's going to learn how to play quarterback from Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the most freakish quarterback we may have in the league right now.
Sure.
It's crazy. I'm not saying Mitch Trubisky sucks, but you're talking about $20 million, man. $20 million.
But that's just the price of a starting quarterback anymore.
Yes. And now that's the first point I agree with you on. So here's the thing. This is what, remember when we talked about that we were talking about the 49ers and how they win. And you were saying one of the things that you felt like I liked about the 49ers is that you want to think there's a different way to win. Mm-hmm. If Mitch Trubisky getting $20 million does not show you that the NFL is too quarterback dependent and it's hurting the league, I don't know what else will. Because we're going to get to the point, literally, Marcus, where it's just a matter of, do you have a quarterback or not? And if you don't have a great quarterback, just might as well just fold up the tents for the season. Why even play the games?
Let me ask you this. Do the 49ers beat the Rams this year if Trubisky is the quarterback and it's not Jimmy Garoppolo?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Because I think the ability for Trubisky to run and make plays with his legs is maybe if he makes 2 more plays in that game, the 49ers might win. That's like saying, hey, if we had hit the field goal late in the second quarter, it changes Jaquaski Tartt's just got to catch that ball. It's that simple. And he didn't, and that's okay. It happens. What I'm saying is I think Trubisky, assuming he did get a little bit better in the time off and he learned from Ken Dorsey and Brian Dable, could he be a guy that you get to the playoffs with and maybe win a playoff game? Why not? He almost did it with the Bears in 2018.
Okay, right? If that's what the goal is, I mean, the Cowboys sure have. Well, they can't even ace that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's say you're Denver and you strike out on Aaron
You've already done this. Do you think Trubisky is an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater? No. Okay. I think that Trubisky has a higher ceiling probably at this point than Teddy Bridgewater, but higher floor, no way. But hey, there's a point in that. By the way, I've seen peak Jimmy Garoppolo and I've seen peak Mitch Trubisky. I'll take peak Jimmy Garoppolo. I know Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play very well this year. Guess what? Mitch Trubisky didn't play at all. So I just think the economics of the quarterback position have just gotten out of control. You know what? But that's enough about Mitch Trubisky. I mean, he's hijacking our show. Nice coffee mug, though. I like that better than your running backs don't matter one. So I want to bring in my good buddy. And we could talk about your Cowboys mug because I know this guy has got, I'm going to guess right now, Chad Ryder has somewhere an Ezra Johnson Packers coffee mug. Chad, how are you? It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming on, talk some draft with us. Is that correct? You're muted.
He's got to make sure. See, listen, this is my fault for telling him to be on mute while we were talking.
Way to go.
So he's back. My bad. I got so excited to talk about Ezra Johnson that I forgot. Ezra Johnson, no, I do have a coffee mug that I received as a gift, a Packer one. I don't even drink coffee, but it is nice to have something around to put some iced tea in or something. So.
Now, does it have a logo on it or does it have a helmet? Because I'm a big fan of the helmet versus the logo. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like all the networks went to the logos years ago. I like the helmets, man. You gotta have the helmet on the mug.
You like this one?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chad? Helmets or logos? Okay. What do you think about Mitch Trubisky? Settle this between Marcus and I.
I don't care about that either. No. Look. Teams have to make a decision on what they're going to do next year. And if they're not in a position to get one of the quarterbacks they like in this draft, then they have to come up with plan B. And plan B has got to be better than what they have. And I don't know how many places Mitch Trubisky is better than what they have. It can't be that many. It can't be that many places. Also, I take into consideration that when I hear a report that 12 teams are interested in Mitchell Trubisky and they're going to give him X amount, well, where's that coming from?
Agent. Agent.
And of course the agent is going to say that, right? I mean, and I don't know if that's true or not, but let's just take it for a grain of salt and we'll see, what happens with it. But I mean, quarterback, look how much did the Bears pay Andy Dalton and Nick Foles.
I know.
And, I mean, it's not 20 million, but it was a quote lot of money, but it wasn't that much. And Trubisky does have a higher ceiling than some of the other veterans that are kicking around right now.
All right.
So look, would I pick him up? No. Do I know that teams that aren't just going to tank next year, do they have to improve their team somehow? Yes.
Yeah.
Chad, I'm going to give you a team. Yeah. Tampa Bay is in some trouble with their quarterback situation, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really good quarterback coach with a really good offensive coordinator with a good offensive line. Why not?
Can they afford it?
Yeah.
Can they afford it?
I think they could probably figure it out, right?
Yeah, they could probably figure it out. It would be interesting if Jameis going back there would be interesting. Honestly.
I saw Bruce Arians talk about it. He said it would be good for us, but not for Jameis.
Yeah, right.
Chris Godwin, listen, you've been a good player for us, but listen, we just have got to move you. We can't afford to pay you because we want to bring in Mitch Trubisky.
Right. Exactly. No, but I think, and as we talk about these guys, and we're not going to talk quarterbacks today on what we're talking about, but you have to think about when you watch these guys coming in, are they really that different than Mitch Trubisky? And if they're not, then why are you spending all that money on Trubisky instead of getting one of these guys with a relative bargain rookie contract? Which, by the way, if it doesn't work out after 2 years, that guy's gone. That's just
because they don't have to spend a draft pick, right? Draft picks for most GMs are more valuable than cap space in dollars, right?
And I think the player is the most valuable thing. I think you take the player that gives you the most value. So I wouldn't worry about whether it's cap space or draft picks. I would worry about getting the guy that's going to lead the team. But, everybody does things differently. So.
In a world.
Are we done with Mitch Trubisky talk?
Quarterbacks.
I want to keep going.
Comes one man with the 6 yards per attempt career statistic. Sorry. I'm done.
A funny story about Trubisky is that the day before that draft, we were asked for NFL.com to put out our quote bold prediction, right? And I said that the Bears would be one of 2 or 3 teams that would be interested in trading into the number 2 spot to get Trubisky. And I got so much hate for that because they'd only be moving up 1 spot. What are they doing? Blah, 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 blah. Logic does not come into play, with these quarterbacks. Teams fall in love with the guy. They want him. That's how it goes. So it's going to be interesting to see if that happens again this year.
Of course, the way the Bears' history's gone, Mitch Trubisky is like in their top 5 all-time best quarterbacks.
Well, I'm not going.
No team has had a worse.
I have to stay away from the Bears hate because I'm supposed to be objective here. I'm not like Marcus and the Steelers. So
I love the Bears. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's the truth, man. When your best quarterback wore number 42 back in the 1940s, it's pretty bad. Sid Luckman, everybody. Okay, so Chad.
Bob Avellini does not like that hate that you're throwing towards him, by the way.
No. Marcus was a Moses Marino guy.
No, I was a Rex Grossman guy.
Rex Grossman guy? All right. Remember when Chad Hutchinson had a cup of coffee there and Craig Stenstrom and boy, I could go all Peter Tom Willis.
By the way, Jay Cutler is the best quarterback in franchise history. Just tell him.
That is, you're crazy.
You put up some great numbers there. Just saying.
I could pull up a Sid Luckman number for you right now that's better than any year Jay Cutler ever had. You should look at Eric Kramer, 1995, before he got hurt. Actually played really well for them. But that's not what we brought Chad on. Chad could go NFC North football all day. Grew up a big Packers fan, so that's how you know Bob Avellini. I was waiting for you to throw Steve Fuller out. I knew it was coming. I knew just a few more seconds. All right, so you prepared 6 players for us today, 6 prospects. I want to hear Marcus carve this up with you. What's the extenuating circumstance or what's the data we need to know about these 6 guys?
Well, we decided to talk about guys that could really help themselves at the combine this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about the guys that could be a 4th round pick or 3rd round pick or 5th round pick with good workouts. I'm talking about guys that are already in the 1st round conversation, but The athletic tiebreakers can be the difference between a guy going 10 to 12 and a guy going 16 to 18. And just pulling up some data there, that's $5 or $6 million worth of guaranteed money on that contract. That's the difference. And even guys that are on the top 50, middle of the second round, if they can squeeze up towards the beginning of the second round or even late in the first, that's a couple $1 million. So
that's the extenuating circumstance for these guys. They could
that's
move
legitimate.
up.
Yeah.
You
could, it's look, like you guys were talking about, you don't pick a guy based on what he does on the combine. That's a tiebreaker situation where you don't get to see. And again, it's also drills and interviews and all this other stuff, and whether it's at the combine or at their facility and all that, or those kind of things, or pro day. But it's important enough that you're going to take that athleticism over a guy who's not quite as athletic every time. Unless the guy who's not athletic is a special player. He has to be special in other ways. So I picked 6 guys that are likely going to be first-round picks or early second-round picks, but they can really help themselves and make legitimate amount of money with really good workouts.
All right, so who's number 6? Because I want Marcus to argue with someone besides me. So this will be fun.
Well, I had them on my list in alphabetical order, so I don't know how you guys did them, if you did them the same way that I did them or not. So maybe you should unveil it before I talk about it.
We just go. We'll adjust. We'll be fine.
Okay. So the first guy I was on my list was David Bell from Purdue, wide receiver, who is a technically sound receiver who catches everything, but he's not. It's anticipated that he's not going to be that fast, and he's not going to have great short area agility. Now he has enough that when he runs his routes, he's actually pretty good at it, and he's very technically sound at those routes, so he can get open. It may not be with long speed. So if he proves himself faster than what is known about him right now, then that's a guy that could be, instead of a mid-second round pick, he could move up, and maybe early second, maybe late first, something like that. And the thing is, with most of these guys we're going to be talking about, they're underclassmen. The seniors that we've all heard about already, in this draft class, most of them are, Agent Hutchinson and Jordan Davis and all these guys that are in Bruce Feldman's Freaks article that are in the Athletic every year. He talks about some underclassmen in there too, but teams also go to junior pro Ds at these campuses, right? So they have data on a lot of the seniors in this group, but the underclassmen, it's not quite as much. So there is a little more room for them to improve their standing than a guy that teams are pretty well know what they're going to do. David Bell is one of those guys. And if he's picked in the middle of the second round or late in the second round because of his average athleticism, he's just going to be a bargain for somebody. He's going to be in the Keenan Allen. Van Jefferson was a late second round pick, which is a little bit of a surprise. So like some of these guys become really good NFL players despite that draft position.
Yeah, I think you and I see David Bell a little bit differently. I'm not quite as high on him as you are. I just saw a very, very average athlete. And
right.
I wonder, because he doesn't have a lot of top end speed, if he's eventually going to have to move inside of the slot and be like one of these little bit oversized slot receivers. And I don't hate that, because I think his game I think it's actually kind of built for the slot, but I agree with you. If he can run in the mid 4.5s and look quick in the drills, I think somebody could talk themselves into him being a top 2 or 3 round pick, but I just don't see that athleticism at all.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I mean. Most people see it that way. But again, guys fall in the third round all the time because of that. And they can become pretty good players, and some don't. That's why teams worry about the combine, why it actually matters, Elliot. But it makes a difference when they're trying to play. This athleticism matters, but it's not everything. Right. As I say, something. Now I'm going to screw it up because I said that. Nothing is everything, but everything is something. So you have to pay attention to it, but it's not the whole kit and caboodle on a guy's evaluation.
While I work on that saying in my mind to understand the true meaning, because I feel like there's a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
I would just say it. I was looking him up. At 205 pounds, if you don't have short area quickness, you're not going to make it as a slot receiver. Because if you're not a great athlete, and Marcus, I'm trusting your judgment on this. If you're not a great athlete, and you get moved inside of the slot, you've got to have good short area agility and quickness. You have to, especially at 205. That's a big, and he's probably going to get a little bigger. What is he, 21 years old? So if you're looking at a 210, 215 pound slot receiver that's not quick, that's not very good. Lumbering slot receivers typically don't make it. Just a thought.
Well, another guy who's similar is Tyler Boyd. Again, late second round pick, did not run very fast coming out of Pitt. But all that guy does from the slot, put him outside, whatever, is make plays. So I think that's the kind of guy that Bell is. And again, I put him on the list because he's got that to prove. He's got to prove that.
That's a good I like that. I like that comp though, because that helps me visualize the kind of player that we are talking about. And Marcus and I have talked about Tyler Boyd a lot on this podcast. Let's go to number 5.
I have Charles Cross from Mississippi State. He's a left tackle, extremely talented left tackle, was a 5-star coming out. Dan Mullen was the coach at Mississippi State at the time, I think, and said he was going to be a star. Really talented guy, really solid pass protector, plays with a little bit of nastiness in the run game too. He's a little underrated for that. And I want to see his length and his size, overall size. He's the kind of guy that when you put him next to these huge guys like Ike Ekwonu and Evan Neal and even Trevor Penning, he's not going to look like them. But he's a fine left tackle prospect. And he's one of these guys that if he shows up with better length and a little stronger than teams thought, then maybe he'll be in that top 10 conversation. But if he doesn't, then he might fall into that Tristan Wirfs, Rashawn Slater, these guys that fall into the middle of the first round, even though they're really talented players. So he's got a lot of incentive to look really good this week. And I think if he does that, that's really going to help him get really high in the first round as opposed to in the middle of the first round.
I like that you mentioned Tristan Wirfs because that's the type of player I saw on the field. My concern is, as you mentioned, the athleticism. Like Tristan Wirfs tested as an insane athlete coming out of Iowa. I don't see that level of athleticism, and it just lowers his ceiling a little bit for me. But I agree with you. I think he's the 3rd best tackle in the draft, and wouldn't be surprised at all if he's a top 15 pick.
Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway,
it's interesting just listening to you guys. And I try to let y'all nerd out. I don't want to say too much, but I just think left tackle is one of those positions in the NFL where I feel like technique trumps athleticism so much as opposed to other positions. Do you guys see that differently?
I think you need
both.
Ahead.
Go ahead, Chad.
I mean, I think you need both. I mean, you've seen guys like David Bakhtiari, who was a 4th-round pick for whatever reason. Again, probably because he wasn't 6'6" and 300 pounds. But there's so many guys with size and length that just don't make it because they're not. Athleticism is such a general term that you need to be able to do things like recover off an initial pass rush move. And you can use a 3-cone or some other drills for that kind of stuff. But that's an athleticism that isn't tied to a 40-yard dash or a bench press reps, So you just have to be careful on how you're standing. But yeah, I think technique is so important. And it's not just left tackle, it's right tackle. There's too many guys, pass rushers coming off the other side of the line now that you can't afford to have what's his name? Prince from the Cincinnati Bengals on that side.
Isaiah Prince. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't have that. And I think I think you're right in terms of technique. I wouldn't say it trumps athleticism, but certainly if you have athleticism, but you don't have technique, then you're still going to struggle.
It's interesting, Marcus, kind of going from the height of your fandom, you're the biggest, like when the Cowboys were just starting to get good, right? Tyron Smith was this freak athlete at left tackle, and Doug Free was kind of this plugger. No one thought of him as an athlete, but as his technique got better, Doug Free actually became a very effective right tackle in pro football. So that's kind of where I was coming from. But do you guys see Charles Cross staying at left tackle, or would you see him maybe moving over to right?
I see him on the left side because there's just not very many good left tackles in the NFL. And if you can survive on that side, that's where you're going to play.
Yep.
Let's go to number 4.
Jordan Davis from Georgia. Now, everybody, for some reason, he won 2 major college football awards, and not because he's not a good player, but, typically a guy that doesn't produce that much doesn't win those kind of awards, right? I mean, usually you've got to have a lot of sacks or a lot of tackles and stuff like that. And this is a behemoth. He's going to be 6'6". They listed him at like 340, but there's no chance he was 340 during the season. I mean, he had to be well above 340.
I heard that he played at 385.
Yeah,
that's insane.
So regardless
that's
of what
Gilbert
he weighs,
Brown,
a lot of people just think, he's only a two gap plugger. That's it. Well, that's not actually true. If you watch him, he can, when he is asked to slant into a gap, he can get there. And any college guard or center that tries to reach block a dude like that is going to have a lot of issues. So he spent time in the backfield when he was asked to be in that situation. But a lot of times he wasn't. He was asked to just stand his guy up and then throw him aside like he was nothing, and then go after the ball carrier if they chose to run in the A gaps. Now, why teams chose to run in the A gaps when he was sitting there, I don't know. But he's really talented. But in this combine, he can actually show people that he has the short area, that he has the get off, and he can be an effective player on third down when they need him. Now, is he going to play 100 snaps a game? No, he's not. But if he can get to that 60 mark, a lot of guys like DJ Reader, something like that, where he can play 60 snaps, he can play 50, 60 snaps. If he shows us at the combine that he's got not only short area agility, but if he doesn't look like he's going to fall over after his 40, and if he does all the drills that that everybody else is doing, and he looks good, like his conditioning is in order, then he can really make sure that he's in that top half of the first round. He doesn't slide down. Terrence Coney from Alabama, if you guys remember him, he was a real force at Alabama. He ran like a 5.7 40, right? And he did not look great in other things. And he was sort of Orlando Brown before Orlando Brown in that sense. And he went late second round, and he wasn't he's fine. He's a fine player, but he wasn't a first round guy. If Jordan Davis can be better than that, and I think he'll be a little bit more than a little better than that, I think he'll lock in that middle of the first round, the 15 to 20, 21, something like that. He'll lock that in. And who knows, maybe higher.
So again, I get a little bit of insight in this. In pre-draft training, some of the Georgia defensive linemen did a mock combine last week, 4.98 40 at 345 pounds. And that's really interesting to me, because if he posts numbers like that and he has a 30-inch vertical and let's say a 10-foot broad jump, again, all numbers that he's capable of doing, I could see him being maybe a top 10, 12 pick, because we saw just a couple years ago, Derek Brown from Auburn, 330 pounds, tested terribly. Right. Jordan Davis, I think, is a better college player and going to test as a better athlete. I agree with you. I think that's a great call.
Yeah, he's got to do that. And by the way, don't ever listen to what people tell you happens in these workouts when you don't have a stopwatch there. Honestly, we saw this with the with guys trying to put these 40-yard dash times on Twitter. Hey, my guy ran a 4.3, and you time it. You're like, dude, it was like a 4.6.
It's fair. Do you think there's a chance that he runs a sub 5-second 40?
Oh, I have. Who knows? I would be like Vita Vea was like a 5.1, right?
I think he's faster than Vita Vea.
Right. And so is it possible? Absolutely. But I don't trust any words that come out of anybody's mouth, because, and it might be true. I mean, but this guy's going to run a 4.3. This guy's going 4.46. Okay. So I want to see it.
I'm going on record. I'm saying sub 5-second 40 for.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if he did that.
I mean, I'll be on pins and needles seeing if he can do it.
Right.
I'll call you if he does it. Yeah, we'll wait.
Marcus and I, Chad, have talked a few times about when the Patriots had the number 1 seed and they played the Jets. and Sean Ellis just got all over Tom Brady, and the Jets beat him. And I think Sean Ellis is probably running an 8.8 40 in that game with his cookie belly. So, I don't know. Sometimes it's just want to, and there's game speed, right? But
Elliot, really quickly, doesn't this seem like the perfect player for the Chargers, who could not stop the run at all last year?
Yeah.
Just get a 350-pound monster in the middle. That's the perfect landing spot.
Yeah. I put him in there in my first mock draft. I don't intend on moving him unless something amazing happens. But again, you can't be, and this is to Elliot's feelings about this, right? If he runs a 4.98 40, I'm not going to stick him number 8 overall. All right. I'm not, because he's got other things to show. And you have to take it as, and this happens with the Senior Bowl and the Combine. Recency bias pushes people to go way too far on guys or go way too low on guys based on what happened in one event or one area of their evaluation. So, like you said, Derek Brown, is Derek Brown worth that pick at that point? No. I don't know. No. I don't know. So I think teams, and that's why teams typically don't pick guys like that in the top 10, right? Because they know that it's difficult for them. He's not going to push around 30-year-old offensive linemen the way he pushed around 22-year-old offensive linemen, right? So it's a different game. But if he does well, then at least he's going to be able to stay in that, and teams won't have. They can check the box and say, okay, his athleticism's fine. Now we'll see if he can do gassers for an hour and see how he does on that, and see how many snaps we can play.
Guys, I was just looking, and another thing we've talked about on our podcast is the greatness of the 2006 Chargers team that got eliminated. They had a guy like this, Jamal Williams, at nose tackle. He went in the second round of the supplemental draft. Jamal Williams was 348 pounds. That's what he was listed at, which you could pretty much.
There's no chance.
But there's no chance.
Yeah.
So I like the call there, Marcus, on that. Okay, let's go to your next guy.
I've got Sauce Gardner on the list. Cornerback from Cincinnati. Should have been the Jim Thorpe winner. Nothing against Kobe Bryant, his teammate, but it should have been Gardner. Outstanding player. But when he went to Cincinnati, he was not a 5-star recruit. And his athleticism was not great. 6'2", he's probably 175 pounds, not that fast, all this stuff. So he's got to show that he's gotten better in those areas. And if he comes in at 205, 210, if he comes in running anywhere near a 4.5, then you just draft him wherever you're going to draft him, from 10 to 19, wherever in the middle of the first round. Maybe he gets into that top 10 if he does really well. But there's some interest. There's guys like Dre Kirkpatrick, for example, from Alabama, very similar guy, ran 4.57, 4.58, something like that. Was not the quick twitch athlete, but he has length and he's a really good player. So it's not like Gardner has to run fast to be a good player. It's just a matter of where his draft stock ends up based on that overall athleticism. And, frankly, cornerbacks, the combine is probably the most important for defensive backs and wide receivers. Running backs, not as much for running backs, but it's good to see them working in space as well. But you got to prove the speed, and you have to prove the agility, and you have to prove you can catch the ball. And those are the things that you don't see defensive backs get a chance to do on film, and nearly as much. Gardner was not targeted often this last year, which is one reason he didn't get the Jim Thorpe Awards, because he didn't have the stats, all the stats that other people had. But he's really got a chance to really get himself into that top 10 discussion, which, again, like I said, it's $5 million. So it's pretty big.
And I would just say this about Sauce: as long as he runs in the 4.5s, it's fine. Now, the problem is if he runs at the 4.6s, we've had just one cornerback in the last 20 years be successful that's run a 4.6, and it's Josh Norman. It's just a game that's so much based on speed now. And I know he's got great size. He's going to come in at 6'2" and change. He's very physical, but all he needs is to check that box. 4.5, whatever, it's good for him. Yeah. And if he somehow surprises us and runs on the 4.4s, we're talking about probably the first cornerback off the board. So I like that call.
Yeah, for sure. And he's, Elliot, he's kind of like Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie in some ways, but that he's very, very lean. And he can push around guys at the college level, but he's not going to be able to do that as well at the NFL level.
Yeah.
So if he comes in at 186 185, even if he runs in the 4.5s, teams may still have concerns about him. And like Kirkpatrick and DRC go in the middle of the first round, not in the top 10. But again, you put him in the right, like, you know, you can imagine this guy and Richard Sherman and Cham Chancellor in that in the Seahawks defense, right? Just that length, the tenacity and the press coverage. He can do that, and he's also good in coming up in zone as well. So he does a lot of things that you like, and if he just proves that athleticism, it's going to help him a lot.
It's interesting listening to you guys discuss this. I've always thought that's kind of overrated in today's game, being able to, as you say, push around receiver, because so few teams actually run press coverage or bump and run very often. Very, very rarely. I hardly see it at all. I mean, true.
Yeah, but they have to stay with guys downfield. I mean, you have to be able to make contact and stuff, so it matters.
Sure. But I'm just talking about the stick point, you know. The other thing that's really confusing to me is why they call the best defensive back the Jim Thorpe Award winner. I mean, Jim Thorpe played in an era where they didn't even throw the ball, literally. The ball was like a watermelon, size. I'm not kidding. It was that big.
We should call it the Deion Sanders Award. That'd be much better, right?
You would love that, wouldn't you? I mean, that would just get you all sorts of excited. But guys, I have a lot of confidence that Gardner's going to be faster than y'all think he is, because he caught up to our number 3 on our graphic. See, look, there's no space. Look how fast he is, Chad.
Yeah,
See, I know. Listen, hey, look, I'll
4-5-0. That's my prediction. 4-5-0 for Gardner.
I'll see myself out.
Okay.
Let's go to number 2, Chad.
Breece Hall from running back from Iowa State. He does so many things well on the field. And he looks like he has that breakaway speed when he gets into the open field. And you want to see him. You want to see the short area agility. You want to see the breakaway speed if you're going to pick this guy in the first round. But because he has so much, he has really good vision. He can pick out creases. And like I said, against college players, it looks like he can break away from them and turn the 10-yard gain into a 50-yard gain, right? And so I think he can do a lot of things. He's actually he doesn't drop very many balls either as a receiver, and he's made some excellent catches. So he can do a little bit of everything. And if he can just show that short area agility again in drills, not just like 40 time and all that, but some of that stuff, he's sort of a Jonathan Taylor kind of guy where a lot of people didn't think he was a first round pick coming in. Oh, he can't catch the ball. Oh, he's in that Wisconsin offense. Oh, blah, 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 blah. He's very similar. And Taylor, we knew had the track speed, though. We knew that. And I think Breece Hall actually has that too. But if he can show that, he's got a chance to be that one running back that might be worth a first round pick.
I'm really curious to see the 40, because one of the reasons why so many people like Jonathan Taylor is he ran a sub 4.4 40 at 226 pounds. I don't think Hall is going to do that, but something I just want to mention to you, Chad, the top 10 runners last year in rushing yards, their average 40-yard dash was 4.47 at 224 pounds. I don't think Hall is going to run that fast. I think 4.55 is a little bit more likely. And if it's worse than that, that's when I get concerned, because there's just not a lot of good running backs in the NFL today that are running in the 4.6s, because it is so much about your home run speed. So I think the 40 for Hall is very important.
Yeah. And that's why he's on this list, because he's got to do that. He's got to show that he has that speed and that he will, in Big 12 defenses aren't that tough. So, I mean, that's going to be a strike against him, but he's got a lot of talent. And so I think he's the one guy that in that running back group that really has a chance to be powerful and fast. I mean, there are going to be guys that are faster than him, but they don't have his ability to weave through traffic. They don't have his power. So he's got the all around game. And if he adds the athleticism testing, then you're going to see a lot of teams interested in him.
Marcus, you're a running backs don't matter guy. Mm-hmm. So is there any way you would even have the Rams take this guy? I mean, the last position in the draft, would you even consider him as a first round pick under any circumstance?
No, because I like the depth in this class as well. The quality of running back that you're getting at 32 compared to 64, I don't see a difference. In fact, I like the guys later even than that. I like some of the third and fourth round running backs. So I like Breece Hall. I think he probably should be the first running back off the board, but I'm not thinking until like 40 at the earliest. Like the Jets, they've got 2 second-round picks. If the Jets want to spend one there, I get it, but that's the soonest I would consider it.
Yeah, and he might be the only top 50 running back this year. Isaiah Spiller might run really fast and convince somebody to take him. Kenneth Walker, the third out of Michigan State, reminds me so much of J.K. Dobbins, and Dobbins went in the later part, after the top 50 in the second round.
52.
Which I think Walker makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, that's really. So I think Hall is the one guy that's got a shot. And I agree, Marcus. This group, I don't know who to leave out of the third and fourth round in my next mock draft that comes out after the combine. There are so many talented backs, and people, you say running backs don't matter. I don't think that running backs don't matter. I think there are so many of them that can get the job done that you don't have to spend a first round pick to get.
And that's part of the argument, right? There's so many that you don't. There's just not one guy that is so much better than the guy that you can go pick in the third round of the draft.
Right. So that's what. So a lot of people are saying it's a devaluation of the position. I think it's honestly a valuation of the talent that the guys at the position.
There's a surplus of running backs. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I'm
and of course injuries
on
and
a
all that
date.
stuff. So
we could talk about running back for hours, Elliot. This is
I know. I feel like I'm the third wheel. So, you guys you're on a date and you're having enchiladas, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like the person that showed up late just to say hi.
Okay. So what running back? I'm going to set Elliot up for this one. Right? Mm-hmm. So what running back would you like to see in the Hall of Fame, Elliot, that isn't in right now?
Oh my gosh.
Well, we talked about some of these guys, right?
I would like to see, here's what I'd like to see. And I have a lot of thoughts about this, what you guys just talked about. And I need to correct myself too. I knew as soon as I said the Rams at 32, I was like, no, they traded that pick away. The Lions will be on the clock at 32. Okay. So Marcus, that's really who I was asking you about, but I don't see them taking him. No. Okay. I'll tell you right now, these are the guys I'd like to see at least discussed, Chad. I'd like to see O.J. Anderson discussed. Otis Anderson won MVP, Super Bowl, rushed for a heck of a lot of yards in the NFL. Honestly, you guys might snicker at the short career. I'd like to see Priest Holmes discussed. I just want to see him discussed. And then I think that a lot of people don't realize just how good Chris Johnson and Steven Jackson were. But I told you on the phone, my most underrated running back to ever play is William Andrews of the Atlanta Falcons. But I don't see that happening. So
no, 6-year careers is really hard to get in. William Andrews, Billy Sims would be two guys that if you let in guys that had 6-year career, those two would be the guys. And I love Fred Taylor. I thought Fred Taylor, in a time where 175 people weren't invited or named to the Pro Bowl, he had 4 years where he could have easily been a Pro Bowl player if he wasn't in Jacksonville and if there wasn't, two guys ahead of him always that got in. And I think he was so fantastic as a player. So he'd be the guy that I would choose to vote for and hope he gets in someday.
Well, this is a good segue because Marcus and I spent Friday going over Marcus's top 20 running backs since 2000. If you guys didn't listen to that podcast, it was audible only, or what do you say? Auditory only?
Audio only.
Or you could just say it audio. Yeah, you could just say it the simple way. Thank you. Anyway, check that out if you get a chance. Just you guys talking about Breece Hall. We'll get off Breece Hall and get to your last one here in a second. But a couple of things struck me from what you said. Chad, I was telling Marcus I don't really love the combine. This is kind of a question and a comment to you, both of you. We've gotten so scientific about these numbers and everyone's watching them. And the combine that used to have, maybe 50 people there total now has hundreds of people. there. Do you think the game has maybe strategically suffered? Because if you're only looking, not only, but if having to run a 4.42 is so important, guys, I can't tell you how many times I see running plays in the NFL where the guy hit the hole too fast. And if he just would have delayed a moment and been more patient, like a Frank Gore or even a primed Le'Veon Bell, the crease is there on the backside. But if everything is one cut and go and we're timing everybody in the 40 because we're so concerned about hitting the hole hard, then why not just get a robotic running back? There's no room for style anymore. Remember LaShawn McCoy, Marcus? We talked about his style. I don't know how fast LaShawn McCoy was coming out, but would he even be a fit in today's NFL? I wonder that as you guys were talking about Breece Hall. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, look, there's room for running backs that run in the 4.5s and 4.6s. They have a spot in the NFL. They're not gone. I think that you have to be able to do the things that you're talking about to be a success. So that's why not every running back who runs in the 4.3s in the first 2 rounds. Otherwise, that would be it. That's not the case. What you need though, and I'm not even saying like you have to hit the hole that fast, because that's a 10-yard split, right? I mean, you're not that type of speed the long speed isn't coming into play there, but you have to look for patience and some of these other things. So I think that's why you see, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was not a 4.4 guy. For example, he got picked in the first round for some of these reasons. Now that hasn't worked out. I don't know why he got picked in the first round, but teams aren't just looking at 40 speed. So it's not that simple. The data that is being used for telecasts and talk about teams don't necessarily, some teams get into that really strongly and some do not. It just depending on who's running that organization. But I think everybody looks at it, but it's not everything. So, I don't think the game is changing because of that. I think if there's reasons why running backs aren't being patient, is because defenders are getting so fast that you don't have time unless you have an excellent offensive line. So I think it's more to do with the speed of the defenders in that particular case than like saying we're looking for speed. So that's the way I look at it. Because I think not every, and I know Marcus, you mentioned the average time in this area, but I think there's room for the 4.6 guy still in the NFL, but he's got to be able to make decisions faster in some cases than a guy who runs in a 4.5, right? I mean, you can make up that speed in other ways.
The slowest running back of those top 10 in rushing yards was Derrick Henry at 4.54, but he also weighed 247 pounds, right?
Right.
I just think, and he's, of all the running backs on the list, he's probably the biggest home run hitter, right? You can find the guys, the plotting guys that are going to get you 2 yards when you need 1 yard, right? But can you get the guys that are going to get you 75 when it's blocked for 10? That's the most valuable part for the running back. And I think that's why speed ultimately matters so much at running backs. The guys that run in the 4.6s, we just call those guys fullbacks now. So,
yeah.
It's interesting. I want to get off running back here, but sometimes I find the 40-yard dash to be incredibly overrated. If we're talking home run speed, let's time the 60. Leonard Fournette, I don't think had a great 40 time, but look at Leonard Fournette's long speed.
Oh, he did
coming out.
He did have a good 40, and that's the thing is all of these running backs run.
What was Leonard
fast.
Fournette's 40 time?
4.50 at 240 pounds.
Okay, it's 4.50, but it's not like low 4.4s.
But you're talking about 240.
240.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand, but there's a great video of him taking off against the Steelers and the how fast he was running on like a 75-yard touchdown run. That guy had real long speed, because some of these guys, once they get to 50 or 60, I just find it very interesting how we have 40 as an arbitrary time. Like a slot receiver, I don't care what their 40 time is. I care about their short area quickness, but we spent too long on Breece Hall already. I want to get your number one guy. Chad, who do you got?
Well, again, I was going alphabetically, so
I know, I'm sorry.
Special about that.
I built up the drama.
George Karlaftis from Purdue. Now, of course, there's reports now that he's not going to work out, right? And that's always an interesting decision for guys like George that have really good tape. He
Is it
uses
fatal?
his hand.
Is that, I'm sorry to cut you out, but is that, how bad is that when a player like this decides, you know what, I'm not doing this?
Yeah. So the problem is for a guy like that is you're basically telling teams, I'm not ready to put up the numbers yet that you need me to put up. But it's not that I blame him, because you have to put your best foot forward. Mm-hmm. And for some guys, you have to do that. You got to wait till the pro day. That's just the way it is. You got to try to gain every little advantage you can get in the next few weeks to get that much faster, because it matters to teams. Now, like every other player on this list and every other player we'll talk about, when you go to the combine, you get the data. And what's the first thing you do after you get the data? You go back to the film. Does this translate to what they do on the field? And if it does, then you're good. And if it doesn't, then you have to make a call. That's why some guys that work out great end up in the third round, because you go back to their film and you say, whoa, where is this production? Where is his intelligence on the field? So for Karlaftis, it's really, he is an outstanding 4-3 base end player. And he's going to be a really good player. He reminds me of guys like Chris Long. He reminds me of guys like Derek Barnett. Those guys that are a little tight in the hips, but they're just powerful. They play with great hand. They can play with leverage. They will chase plays. But if he's not going to work out, that means that his athleticism tests aren't quite there. And if that's the case, unless there's an injury, I haven't heard of any injury. I don't think it's fatal. To get to your point, Elliot, it's not fatal, but it doesn't help him get to that. And the reason why he's on this list, he's in that middle of that first round conversation. If he blew it up, then teams have to consider him higher. But if he doesn't work, and if his pro day is only okay, then that's where he's going to go. He's going to be in the middle of the first round, and he's going to be a good player again. But that's why I had him on the list, because he kind of needs that little bit of a boost.
And the only other thing that I would add to that is he's really a power defensive end. He's not going to win with quickness and speed off the edge. Yeah. And it makes me nervous about his arm length. You can look at the history of defensive ends in the NFL, and guys that are under 32.5-inch arms, there's not a lot of success stories there. So if he has under that, which sounds like he might, and he's an average to below average athlete, that's when some of the red flags start to come up. And if he's not testing before the draft and he does have short arms, I could see him really falling in this draft.
Yeah. I don't think he'll fall too far because the tape's too good. But it's not, would it be a shock if he ended up in the early 20s? No. And I think if he falls any lower than that, then teams are missing out. They're just missing out on a really good player. But in terms of, draft stock, yeah, I agree. It's not great for him, but people say things like that. But the fact is that he's not wrong in not working out if those numbers aren't there. He's not wrong. And I think he's got to do what's best for him. Because the minute, if Orlando Brown, let's say Orlando Brown never ran the 40 at the combine, where does he get drafted?
Late first round.
Top 50?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so it matters, and you have to take control of that. And just, that's why they train, right? They get these numbers and to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward. But anyway, excellent player, but he could have, it's not decided yet. He may still go. And if he goes and does well, then he's going to really help himself. But if he goes and doesn't do well, then he's going to really struggle to break into that top 15.
I've heard of guys that are referred to as monsters. That's probably not very good if you're a pass rusher to be compared to Godzilla. Little short arms, not being able to get to the quarterback.
Call them T-Rex, right?
Yeah, the T-Rex. So I come from a track family. Myself, both my brothers ran track. My dad was probably the fastest one out of all of us. We all ran different events. But, when you're trying to alter times, okay. I don't care if it's hurdles, sprint, and then we could talk about other events in the combine. You alter your body comp in a way. Sometimes you got to lose 15 pounds. Sometimes,
right. Right.
And when players adjust their size, they can lose strength.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems very weird to me, and I'd be curious what you guys think of this, both of you, that if I'm a speed rusher or I'm a whatever I am, forget my position. If I have to change my body type so that I can meet these numbers, but I play better at a totally different weight, then aren't I kind of being it's inflated. It's disingenuous, right? Because I've heard of guys literally having to do something just to hit these. That's where I think these metrics get a little bit ridiculous. But am I wrong on this, guys?
NFL teams know, right? They know, like, if you're a 250-pound defensive end and all of a sudden you bulk up to 266, they know when you're just doing that for the combine. So I think that's factored.
Right. It is. And like Jordan Davis, for example, if he comes in at 325 for something, like, okay, he didn't play at that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
You know, so they know. And the thing with guys like that is that they're going to wonder if he can maintain that weight after the fact. Yeah. And what is he going to look like after that? But yeah, you're right. The thing is a guy like Karlaftis, for example, probably played at around 270, 275, somewhere in there. But they were asking him to play some 5-tech. They were asking him to do a lot of different stuff. And in the NFL, he may not be asked to do that stuff, or he may be asked to do that stuff, and he may come in at 280. And then it's a different conversation about the kind of player you get. So if he comes in at 260 to 265, that means he's taking a new role that he would take in the NFL. Now, you're right in that maybe he won't be as good in that role. That's absolutely true. But I think the team will say, okay, look, he's not as big as he was, but his hands, that's not going to affect the way he uses his hands. He's still going to be strong in his upper body if he's lost some stuff around the middle. Now, if you lose strength, upper body strength, then that might hurt you. And if you have small legs, so that's why it's like one number. We make a big deal out of the 40 number, but that's just like one tiny bit of the whole process.
Well, I guess it would depend on what position you're playing too. But what I was thinking of, Chad, is everybody loses weight in different areas. Like first, all of us, our body comps are all different. Some of us lose weight in our legs first. Some of us lose weight in our belly. Some of us lose weight in the upper body strength. If you're becoming lighter so that you can run a 4.5, but it hurts you in your bench press because you don't have as much weight behind you, I wonder how much that hurts you and how much teams would take that into account. It's just something that crossed my mind. I hate the idea of
that's right. That's why they pay. Yeah, that's why they pay these trainers, right, for combine prep, so that you're losing the weight. If you're going to lose weight, you're losing it in the right places, and you're gaining weight, muscle mass, maybe in other spots. So that's why these guys make that money as trainers. That they're, the players really doing it. It's not like the players are doing, like wrestlers. Probably still do. You put on 14 layers of clothing and you run around the gym to try to make weight. These guys are doing it by eating better and all that. So generally speaking, I don't think it's an issue, but I agree that you don't want to become something that got you to where you're at, and that's absolutely true. Another guy that is in this situation is Logan Hall from Houston. He played at like 270, 275 pounds this year, really active defensive tackle. His teammate at Houston, Peyton Turner, got picked by the Saints in the first round last year. But he's a different player than Peyton Turner. A lot of people are going to try to compare them. But Hall, if he loses weight, I don't know if that actually helps him, even though he might run a faster 40. Teams want him as a 5-tech or even a 3-tech. So he's got to gain weight to take advantage of that athleticism. So it's really dependent on the person. And you're right, is if the trainers, people convince him of taking the wrong path, he could definitely hurt his own draft stock. He definitely could. So, this is absolutely a valid question.
Marcus, I was giving you the floor. I felt like you wanted to say something.
I really like Logan Hall. I'd like to say him play at 285. He was great in the Senior Bowl inside going against guards. I agree with you. Got a little bit of Michael Bennett to his game, but he's a better athlete. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, he's going to be somewhere in that William Golston to, that kind of range. He's not like Cam Jordan. He's not that good.
No,
William.
No.
Yeah, 5-tech, really, productive guy, really strong player. So
Oh, I was thinking of Vernon Golston. Sorry.
You
I
were
was
thinking of
the,
Vernon. Yeah.
I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in a while. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, just to review, your six guys again are David Bell, wide receiver from Purdue, Charles Cross, tackle from Mississippi State, Jordan Davis, defensive tackle from Georgia, Sauce Gardner, a cornerback from Cincinnati, Brees Hall, a running back from Iowa State. And am I saying his name? Is it Karlaftis? George Karlaftis? Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't say George Karlaftis, edge rusher from Purdue. Marcus, out of those six, which one of these do you think really the combine is the most important to?
That's a good question.
In your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Karlaftis is probably going to work out. I kind of think Brees Hall is a good one because the running backs are so closely knit together, right? And if Hall has a bad combine, we could see him go from RB1 to RB4, right? So I think that's probably the one I'm keeping the closest eye on.
I have one question for you on this, Chad, before we go. Brees Hall, I was curious when you're going over it. You know, obviously for different positions, there's different things that rule players out. At the running back position in the pros, especially as a really, really young player, to me, it's always pass protection. Is he going to get our quarterback killed if we put him out on the field? Any thoughts on that? Can Brees Hall do that? Did he show that at Iowa State?
He's got to get better at that. He's got to get better at that. No question. But I think, you know, there's so much rotation of running backs in the league right now, right? You're not unless you're Derrick Henry, you're not getting 25 carries a game. So you can move guys in and out, and he can do enough that it's not just like, oh, he's in the game, they're going to run because he can't pass for them. He's got to get better, and that's fine. But like, again, we're not talking about top 10 pick here. We're talking about a guy second round, late first. It's fine. He'll be fine. Najee Harris, like, you know, he was fine as a pass protector, but they didn't draft him in the first round, you know, because of that. You get over that. You help him improve. You make play calls. Honestly, for most running backs, the best way that he can protect is to get out in the flat and be a real threat as a receiver in space, where you have to, that linebacker's got to go and take him rather than blitz him if he gets in open field. So, yes, it's important, but, you know, Zeke Elliott was a great pass protector, and, you know, how the Cowboys doing, Marcus, with that?
Such a low blow to finish out the show.
Hey, speaking of, I was thinking he might be a good fit for Washington. Add another dimension to that backfield. They ran the ball inconsistently. Get a little no. Why are you smirking, Marcus?
I just thinking about Chad disrespecting my running back because you know how much I love Ezekiel Elliott. So,
well, first of all, he's from Ohio State. So how am I not going to do that? And then second of all, no, but I just want to bring him up because he's a really good pass protector, you know, and so that's important. But like,
it's a
everything
$15 million pass protecting running back. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything else we've talked about, that's one thing, one attribute, but it's not everything. So,
hey, Chad, that's why when I talked about Doug Free, I said the height of Marcus's fandom, because he was about 18 when that happened. You know, at 18, you think you know it all.
Yeah.
So not only are you like the most opinionated fan on the planet, you know, Just so you know, Chad, to peel the curtain back, though, Marcus finally admitted to me on Friday's podcast that he used to really value the running back position. He told me he thought that the Broncos were crazy for trading away Clinton Portis for Champ Bailey.
I mean, I was like 9 at the time. Jeez, all I cared about was fantasy football back then, man.
Man. Hey, Chad, we really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to give both of you guys the last word. Quick word, anything you got before we head out of here.
Chad, I'm just pumped to go to Indianapolis. I head out tomorrow, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Be back there this year. Missed it last year. So I just can't wait to see these guys up close and personal, everybody next to each other. We're running these drills and things like that to get some real, especially the underclassmen, to really, you know, get a sense of you know, the kind of athlete they are, and then take a look at their film again when I get back. I'm like, oh, I'm going to move that guy up. No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good here. So the whole process continues, and it's going to be good to see people again in Indy. So just really looking forward to that.
I can't wait to sit on my couch for 20 hours and call guys fat as I'm eating Cheetos and drinking cherry Coke. It's really, really exciting time, Elliot.
You're just,
Elliot, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I understand why you're not in love with the combine, right? But every year I go there, I am just flat out amazed at the athleticism of these guys. It is amazing to watch. And if you like watching, I like watching track and field events. If Matthew Bowling from Georgia's in the event, I'm going to watch it, right? These guys have amazing athleticism, and it's just fun to watch for me. As much as evaluating, it's just like, wow, people can really do this. Like, I have a 6-inch vertical jump. Like, these guys are just incredible, so it's really fun just to watch that.
I agree with you. These guys are incredible athletes, and there's going to be guys that test poorly, and they're still incredible athletes compared to your average person, right? So we'll get our jokes off on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're right. This is why it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I like walking into a gaming store and seeing somebody throw the 20-sided dice. I mean, you never know if that wizard's going to be able to take out the giant spiders or the Minotaur. You don't know the layout of the dungeon, Chad.
Right. Exactly. Just think of all the hard sweat they put into that, learning how to roll that die the correct way. And the other thing, I know you guys want to finish, but Chris Jones from Kansas City had one of the best stories ever at the combine. And you guys remember he had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction, right? After he fell down after running the 40.
Yep.
So I was there and I walked over towards him and he was sitting on the bench afterwards looking at his phone. And he was laughing. And he's like, oh my God, they put Jordan's face on it. The crying Jordan. So those kind of things that happen not only show me the athlete, but kind of the person he is. And so it's just so great to see him excel the way he has. Just stories like that and talking with people at the combine and just, it's really a great event. It's my favorite week of the year because of that. And evaluation parts aside, I just love it.
That's great. And I know Marcus has been geeked. He's been geeked for the draft since like October. So, Chad, I don't think you have any idea how much my colleague, he makes like charts and it's, he's already got charts made up ready just in case you might ask him, hey, who are your top 10 guys you think would make great slot corners in the NFL? Marcus already has the chart color coded, ready to go. Yeah. It's with a scheduled tweet.
That's what we do. That's what we do. That's how I started 20 years ago, man. That's
great.
That's the way it is.
I wouldn't ask anyone but you guys, so I think it's cool. I'm glad you're passionate about it because it does make a huge difference in the way teams operate, and draft capital is something we'll be talking about a lot going forward. That said, Chad, we, like I said, we appreciate it. We'll have you on hopefully next week to talk some other guys. And as for us, you can catch Marcus on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And Chad, aren't you at Chad_writer?
Correct. REUTER.
That's right. RE. I was just about to spell it. I'm at Harrison NFL. We appreciate you guys joining us, and we will talk to you on Thursday. Take care, everybody.